When you reach the Forbidden Planet, you explore all the wonders of a vanished civilization.
You are now in forbidden space.
Shh! Those words are forbidden!
Welcome to Forbidden Planet, I'm Blake.
I'm Kristin.
And we are on episode 29.
Okay.
It's been
a few months
since November that we've actually done a podcast.
Holidays, family, birthdays, all kinds of shit.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like we did a podcast for a little while there, like every week.
We did.
And then we fell off and came back, and yeah. Tonight,
it's been busy.
It has been busy.
And we needed a break.
We did, and
we stayed in bed for straight 3 weeks, just
playing video games, and watching movies, and Friends.
Yeah.
We watched Friends in a month, 10 seasons of TV.
What an amazing show.
Oh my god, that show. So good. I wish I could
It's so relevant.
Yeah, it is.
Love to see, now that we're that age when they were recording it, it's just,
pretty much
everything is still relevant, really.
It really is.
And you get to see the internet, and it's beginning early virgin stages.
Oh god, yeah, they would be on the computer on occasion.
Yeah, the dot matrix
so
printer.
That the first laptop that Chandler had in the corner. Oh man, that was great.
And I learned more. I used to think of myself as Phoebe, but now I think of myself as Monica.
Oh yeah,
a mixture of the two a little
Definitely.
bit.
And I learned that Monica was my favorite character.
Yeah, and you're more like Chandler than anybody on that show, really.
Am I?
Oh yeah,
okay.
Definitely.
I know. I make jokes when I'm uncomfortable.
A little bit a little bit like Ross too. You're a mix between those two.
Yeah, Ross was the guy I always thought I was like. And
yeah.
I think that's the test. Whenever it comes up, the test always says I'm more like Ross.
Yeah.
I loved how nerdy he was, and he was one of the first real nerds on TV. I
never realized how nerdy he was.
Oh
either,
yeah, the dinosaur thing was great.
Yeah, yeah, it's great.
There was an episode once where they were like, you can't just love whatever it is what you loved when you were 5, and then grow up and do it.
Why not?
And he's like, what did you love when you were 5? And he's like, dinosaurs. And he was like, you don't talk. What did you? And he moves on to the next one.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of here because we saw a movie today.
Yeah, we saw Chappie.
A
wonderful South African film.
Yeah, that's a great thing about Neill Blomkamp. Is that he all of his movies are in South Africa.
I love I had one of my
it's so
supervisors.
Weird. I never really saw it.
One of the supervisors that I worked with in one of the call centers, he was South African, and
did he have that Charlton Copley accent, like shut up, fucking prawn?
He was one of the darker South Africans. So
wow, so he was a black man in South Africa.
Yep, Charles.
Oh, the racism.
Yeah, but what an amazing person. I had always loved him.
Well, everybody on that side of the world speaks multiple languages, which is crazy.
I had met Charles, and I loved him, every bit about him. He was the best supervisor I've ever had. I'm still friends with him on Facebook, and we talk every once in a while. He didn't spend a lot of time in South Africa. Well, he did, actually. He spent a lot of his years. Not sure exactly.
Okay.
But, just a great person. And then, I had met, this, it was a physical therapist.
Okay.
I had ended up giving him a ride back to somewhere because one of my parents needed to get him back. For whatever reason, I don't know why I met him. But he was also from South Africa. And I fell in love with his accent. Oh my god.
It's so interesting.
And it's crazy, and I don't mean to sound racist, and this isn't meant in a racist way at all, but the difference between the accents of white South Africans and black South Africans is really different. It's really interesting.
That's not, it's just an observation.
It's a really interesting thing, and but oh my god, what a gorgeous accent they all have. I love it all.
It's a good time to throw in a nice notice that the views and opinions of Miss Kristin are not that of... No, I'm just kidding. They're all that of the Forbidden Planet. But he, ever since District 9, even before that, when he was doing his...
Oh my god, I know, right?
His short films. Because all of these movies have been short films, except for Elysium, which is the lesser of the three. District 9 and Chappie were both short films that he did. And he's always stayed in South Africa. And it's funny, the new Avengers movie, and more movies are also filming in South Africa, which is crazy. Like they're just getting a big economy boost.
They need the money, and they have a beautiful area to film
my God,
in.
the development of that country, that half of the country in the last 2 decades is insane.
And it's been a lot of strife there too. And what's beautiful about that is there will always be creative people who come out of those strifes.
Yeah.
And right now it's just fantastic.
Yep.
What is coming out of it, and it's smart. And
I did not realize how young Neill Blomkamp is. He's like...
Really?
I'm going to look it up right now, but he's like... he's very young. When I saw an interview where he was talking about how RoboCop influenced... here, I'm looking it up. RoboCop influenced Chappie in such a way, like the main protagonist's weapon was, the voices even.
Yes.
I mean, I mentioned in a comment that
weird.
Every time like something that was very clearly RoboCop inspired happened, I was like, "Squeed!" I just wanted to.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
And what's great is that I could even see that. I'm hardly
He's
the
35.
RoboCop. Oh wow,
See,
that's
look
awesome.
how young he is. Yeah,
Is he from South Africa?
From South Africa,
oh,
yes.
that's beautiful.
South African Canadian film and advertisement director, and he got his job, working for South African TV, and he was making these short films on his own, like all the CG and everything, which was incredible for the time, and it looked great. He always had that handheld feel.
That's awesome.
I was a huge fan. I can't stress this enough. When District 9 came out, I saw it at the midnight release, the first showing. I saw it with some friends. We were all jazzed to see the movie. Oh my God, I'd never... Like, up until that point, there are a few... I love movies, but I was so... I would have seen it again had they not been sold out.
I saw it in the theater too, and it was the first movie I'd ever seen on Blu-ray, which was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a beautiful movie, absolutely beautiful movie. The message was incredible. The message in Chappie was... The one thing I liked about it was that... Because I had talked to somebody right before we saw it.
Yes, we did, at a comic book shop.
An owner of a comic book store.
Oh, was it? Was it the owner? Okay,
yeah, who said he did not like
Time
it.
Warp
He said
Comics
if
in
you
Boulder.
go into this movie, go in with it with no expectations, like very, very low.
He actually had recommended Kingsman.
He did.
The Secret Service,
he loved
over
it,
this.
and we talked about that, and I mentioned Everly and Kill Bill, how I thought it was kind of like a mix of like Kill Bill.
The Salma
and
Hayek
stuff.
movie.
He loved Kill Bill, so you know what type of movies he likes. But I'm really shocked that it really shocks me.
It makes me wonder if it's a generational thing.
I don't know too, because for me, what Chappie meant, it was just the most excellent explanation of my concept of spirituality that I've ever seen. It is, it's just, we looked up this article because we were talking about that falling feeling that you get when you go to sleep. And the best article that I found that explained it was because your consciousness and your body are separate. Your conscious doesn't need to sleep, your body does. Therefore, when you do go to sleep, your consciousness still keeps going. And so what happens, what possibly could happen, but I think is very likely, is that when you are falling asleep, your consciousness decides to separate and go somewhere else, explore different things, which I think it should. And I think deja vu, dreams, are a big part of that. But when you do wake up from that falling sensation, it's because you do realize that your conscious is separated. When you wake up, you're realizing fully that your conscious is not there anymore, and it's scary. And so you have to pull yourself back into you, and therefore you get the falling feeling. Sometimes it's off a cliff, sometimes it's off the edge of a sidewalk. Either way, it could be short, it could be closer to you or further away from you. And Chappie explained that in such a way of actually showing it in scientific terms,
that
where
your being, your soul, who you are is not reflected by your outward.
It has nothing to do with your body. Your body is a vessel, which is what the Bible says. It's what many Bibles do say. Any spiritual book that you look in, your body is a vessel. Your spirit, your conscious, whatever you want to call it.
A lot of things explain it as like you have a lot of heart or whatever, but it has nothing to do with your heart. What it's really referring to, in my opinion, is your consciousness. And Chappie is all about consciousness, and that there is a scene, no spoilers, but there is a scene between the girl from Antwerp who is pretty much Chappie. Well, she's Chappie's surrogate mother. She's imprinted on Chappie as his mother.
Yeah, and he does call her such.
There's a moment where they're very sweetly in the same bed. She's even got a blanket over him, and she explains to him spirituality, like that whole scene where
they're talking about
you
the
go
black
to that
sheep.
Other place, you go to heaven. And black sheep, and why you're different.
And what I think is so great is that they didn't explain it as heaven.
Yeah,
it's
not
just
heaven.
Going to another
it's
place,
another thing.
Wherever you're supposed to go after. And that's the thing is like, when she says, when she explains it, it's so simple, but it's like a Dove factor. Like, black sheep, it's not about who you are on the outside. It's about who you are on the inside. And she says, that's what I love about you, Chappie. It's you, on the inside.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to cry now.
The weirdest thing about before we saw this movie, and it was only like the situation was only aggravated by Time Warp's owner, mentioned like naysaying in the movie. I read a few reviews, kept away from too many spoilers, which I'll admit a lot of the film is kind of conveyed by the trailer. I wasn't disappointed by how much of the film was in the trailer, but it was a lot.
I think Hugh Jackman's character a little over the top. I think it was just it was like the most extreme opposite of what it's just like you saw that it was cliche. You saw it coming.
The reviews that I read, they criticized the movie as having a dearth of story, like it being very shallow, being very one note, and never answering any of the questions. That was the continuous thing across the board on the 3 or 4 reviews that I kind of glanced at, where they mentioned the shallow story that improved over Elysium but didn't fix the problems. And then the lack of answering questions. I went to that film looking for those things, and I just got caught up in the movie. It's so emotional, so many feels, and I cried so many times in that movie. And
what I love
ridiculous.
too. So Yolandi, mom. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, keep going.
Okay. Well, Yolandi, who was mommy, Ninja, who was daddy. They're from a band, Die Antwoord, who is a South African band, and they wrote a lot of the songs for the soundtrack.
Yeah, there were a few songs that popped up. I noticed that.
Yeah, actually, they wrote quite a few. Some they wrote with like a DJ, not necessarily with Die Antwoord.
Yeah, I think they probably partnered with Hans Zimmer, who did the score. I was surprised.
They played themselves. I love Hans
Zimmer.
Can you believe that? Like they played themselves.
Was that
Yolandi's name is Yolandi Visser.
They meant he's got a shirt on that straight up says their band name.
Yeah, and Yolandi was Yolandi Visser. That's her name. Ninja, he goes by Ninja in the band. So that's who they were in that movie. Isn't that fucking great?
That is so weird.
Yeah.
The movie took place in like 2018 or 2020.
Another thing that I noticed, you know how they called the Mexican guy American?
His name was America.
Actually, in the credits on Wikipedia, his name from the movie is Yankee. I wonder if they changed it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he was a fantastic actor. He was a Hispanic gentleman. I don't know if I recognized him from anything, which is weird to think. Like, I'm sure a lot of those actors, a lot of the periphery actors were South African, and it makes me wonder if he was South African.
Jose Pablo Cantillo was his name. Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah. I have something to add to that later, but I didn't see any questions like it. They leave the film open-ended. Yes, they wrap it up. They wrap up the story, but they leave it to where the story could continue, which I thought wasn't being lazy. That was fantastic.
Absolutely
because
not.
The ending is great. Like, you don't expect it. I did not expect that to happen.
Me neither. And it was so positive.
Yes, it was.
I did not expect it to have such a positive turn on the ending.
Yeah, I don't.
But my God, it did.
So this is going to be a minor spoiler. Chappie doesn't die. Yeah, I was positive he was going to.
Here's a spoiler. Nobody really dies.
Oh, there's
not
a few.
Really.
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
Oh yeah. They said that there was a lot of gore in the movie. There's only one sequence of gore, and it's not any more over the top than any one moment in District 9.
No, have you ever seen a Tarantino
every
movie?
single time in District 9 when they use the gun, one of the alien weapons to zap and they just explode, I loved that. Yeah. So I'm a wrong person to ask about
part
gore.
in District 9 where they what did they do? They put the gun on his arm like they're, how it's wrapped up and that was as much gore as is in Chappie, I think. I mean, it's nothing compared to what it could be.
No, nothing. Like, they could have gone way over the top.
Whoever's saying that shit is fucking, they have it out for somebody.
It was IGN and IO9, actually.
Stupid.
On the character of Chappie, Ninja, Dion, who was his creator to some extent, and then Yolandi and America, they were the best parts of the movie, and they spend the most time with them.
Yes. Now,
I think that somebody at some point, the studio was like, you need to throw in something. This is going to be an action movie. You need to throw in action stuff.
Okay.
And so I think that's why Hugh Jackman and Sigourney, I apologize for yelling, Sigourney Weaver are so one note. Is because why? Okay, so they're the problem.
Characters were what I think Sigourney Weaver's character was meant to be one note.
Yeah, well, I mean, and her screen time kind of shows that she's a talking head for the corporation.
I don't like her as an actress that much, but the fact that she is so into doing these like sci-fi movies is incredible to me. I think it's great.
Wait till you hear what I got for you later.
I don't appreciate.
Hugh Jackman is straight up cartoon character evil, and there's at a certain point. Actually, no. The entire time he's like that. He's just a fucking
a fucking dickhead.
Yeah, and oh my god, like, props to Hugh Jackman for making us hate him so much.
Oh, and the haircut makes it even worse.
When his the end of the movie comes, and like shit hits the fan, I was all for it. Like, you just do not like his character, and he does nothing but. Like,
I think I even
sit there and cackle and do bad things.
This was the first movie where that I've ever seen him in where I truly hated his character. Like, I just hated him.
He was what you call it? Oh gosh, he was just so bad and
he was evil.
He was Dick Jones from RoboCop.
Yeah.
He was Dick Jones. Like, that's what happened to Dick Jones. Like, from the beginning, you didn't like him at all, and then at a certain point, he just became a cartoon character villain. Like. That's his point. But, you know what? They didn't... Even though he was there and he was pushing the plot along, and you could tell it wasn't bad, and they didn't, like, waste time on it. Which is cool, because it showed his development as a villain, and slowly, like, the movie would be another 40 minutes long. And it was perfect.
If you did appreciate the original RoboCop... I think you would truly appreciate Chappie for what it was. Yes. I mean, it is a modern day RoboCop, and it's a beautiful version
tweeted
of it.
on our Twitter, Chappie does RoboCop better than the RoboCop reboot, I am a supporter of the RoboCop reboot. I didn't hate it like a lot of my RoboCop diehard fans.
But
it's just so good. The CGI in that film, the effects in Chappie are so convincing. Like, that robot could have freaking existed. Chappie could have existed right there. He was so tangible, and he moved so well. Charlton Copley did his character perfectly.
And I love how quickly they get to the point of Chappie being Chappie, and how quickly they get to the point of him understanding the world as it is. You know, seeing the good and the bad, and understanding that there is love and family, but there is hatred out there for those who are different. And him... And you know, obviously they set it up that way where he is like a baby, but he learns quickly. He learns a lot more, you know, learns a lot faster than a baby would. But it was such a fantastic way of building that character, and he wrote it to the point where you understood everything that Chappie was learning, and you saw how quickly he was learning it, and it was just... the good and the bad and the ugly and everything about it.
So Chappie is a robot police drone, just meant for like urban pacification or whatever. He has these two bars on the bottom and top portion of his face, two like maybe 20 pixel wide eyeballs that they look like an old 8-bit eyeballs. You know what? They look like a Furby's face. And then 2 antennas, 2 bunny ears on his head.
Yeah.
And they convey, between, Charlton Copley's his movements and his voice, and those few things.
And the soul.
Oh my God.
Completely in that.
I felt for his character so much. It's like, this Chappie is what we got because we withstood Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
This is the evolution. He was a character.
That's a great way of thinking about it.
So
if there's one thing that came out of Jar Jar Binks,
he was the first all-digital character, after all.
You're right.
And now look at Chappie.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just so great.
It was just great.
I just cannot wait. I waited for this film for years.
I can't wait to buy it.
Oh man, I don't
show it to the kids.
I still don't own Elysium, so.
That's true.
Oh yeah, that is something we need to stress too. Mm-hmm. This film, although it has a little bit of swearing, a little bit of gore, it would be a fantastic film for kids. It's visually very good. It's got a good message. It's funny. Mm-hmm. It's just great, and it's no worse than the other movies that are out. Yeah, and
as long as you're a parent who understands that shit's real out there, and you can explain to your kids what curse words are.
Coming from somebody who I'm a ridiculous RoboCop fanatic, I still have not shown that movie to my children because of the drugs, gore, sex, and violence.
Yeah. Nudity,
and
all that stuff.
There's a bit of nudity. Chappie, and I still haven't shown the Kids District 9 because of that. The gore, mostly.
This would be okay.
This was a good film, yeah.
No nudity, no.
It was so violence. Great. And the violence, like the villains doing the violence, it's like they're bad guys. They're clearly bad guys. And it just has a great message.
Really
I loved it. I was so glad that we saw it.
I am so glad that we did,
I was so glad that you enjoyed it. Every time I would be sitting there like,
I was
stifling my tears.
I was crying right along.
And at one certain point, I looked over at you, and it was just a normal moment in the movie, and it made you choke up. And so I was like, it's okay. This movie's getting her too.
I've had experiences like this before in movie theaters where I will be one of the only ones crying, and other people will be reacting a different way. There was actually one of those moments in this movie. I can't pinpoint exactly what it was, but I just remember I was starting to bawl. Like, I was crying anyway, and I started to bawl, and then some guy in the audience just laughed. And I was just like, I thought,
you're
like,
really?
Oh man,
no.
I
that's the thing. I felt like I was conscious of it at first. I felt like we were the loudest people in the theater because we would cheer and we would laugh and communicate what we were thinking at the time. Not like excessively, but we were enjoying the movie.
Yeah.
There was very little of that going on around us, and I hate that. Maybe it's because we saw the movie so early in the day on a Saturday.
Yeah,
but still, that's another reason sometimes I do like to go opening night because.
But it's also another one of those movies that unfortunately I don't think people really know that it's out there.
There's the people who are going to go into it looking for just an action movie or whatever, or just something. And they're not going to look any further than the surface, which a lot of the reviewers obviously did.
But you know what's crazy is that, from the first trailer that I saw, that message was there.
The first trailer fucking, it made me choke up. And I was like, oh my god, this is if Short Circuit, RoboCop, and, the best, Citizen Kane had a baby.
I mean, and everything that I thought it was...
that was a bit much.
Everything that I thought it was going to be in the trailer ended up being in the movie, and the message was even stronger in the movie than I even thought it was
so well put out. Even the beginning, I wasn't sure how the movie was going to start. In the very beginning of the film,
right?
I was just it kept me going because I said everything was in the trailer. It's not in the trailer. There's a lot. You can get the basic narrative structure of the movie.
The only thing I think will turn people off of it, if you want to nitpick about it, the acting isn't the best. It really isn't. I don't even think.
Well, the Antwerp
but I don't even think Hugh Jackman's acting was that great.
Well, he didn't have a whole lot of work to work with.
I'm just saying, as a
with
whole,
a gun. Come on, the character carried around a holstered gun and a cell phone.
No.
On
I'm
the
just
other
saying.
Side. It's like, really?
I think you're missing what I'm trying to say.
No, I get it. He wasn't on his game.
It wasn't. The acting wasn't the best, but I've never said this about a movie before, that the message was good enough and that the screenplay was good enough to where the acting really didn't matter. And you could tell that and this is what else I was going to say, is that it was worse at the beginning. But then as the movie progressed, like as Yolanda became mommy and as Ninja became daddy, you saw their acting improve.
Yeah.
You actually did. Like, they got into it, and you could see how they started to appreciate...
biggest emotional arc started, too.
Well, no, so. I know, but you could see, like, how they started to become their characters as the movie progressed, whereas the beginning it was them just being thugs, you know? Yeah. And then it became a part where she became the mommy, he became the daddy. He wasn't ready. He thought of Chappie as the one thing only of a weapon, as a weapon. Yeah. You know, but then you saw him in a very short amount of time start to feel really bad about how he treated him. Because
Ninja, yes, he started to bond.
And he started getting into his character at that point, and you saw Yolanda getting into her character at that point. And it just created this family that ended up being like
so non-traditional, but so
amazing.
Like an analog to basically family nowadays. Yeah. It's like, you know, you have the mother, and she imprinted that immediately. Like, she was mommy. Like,
you have the baddest motherfuckers.
Him, on the other hand, he saw Chappie as a means to get, like, to do crime, basically. Yeah. And as the movie goes on, like you said, he grows and he uses the father role to manipulate Chappie, but then, as is a lot of fathers who aren't necessarily great, right? But over time because of necessity, they become fathers, whether they want to or not, and that's absolutely what Ninja did.
And they did take advantage of that. Like, at the beginning, like the first half of the movie, I would say they really tried to push the point of those characters' personalities to where they kind of overdid it a little bit. But then, like, a lot done in a little at about half point in the movie, it completely comes into its own.
Yeah, Ninja is not a character you like, and then he is suddenly.
Yeah, and it's a very cliche character, honestly.
The thing about those two, Ninja and Yolandi, and to some extent, America, or whatever his name was, they... Like, it never explicitly says it or shows them do anything in particular. Maybe basically, at the end, but
they're working really hard.
But you get that they're bonded, they're devoted, they love each other, and these two people in this. Do people like? Okay, so the majority of the people outside of the company that makes the robots are like. These ridiculous gangster fucking warlords.
Well, here's my question.
Do people get that gangster live? No.
Here's my question.
Are they real things?
So what I was trying to figure out the entire time was, and I kind of came to the conclusion that it was set kind of
it's
in
slightly
this time.
In the future. It's a couple years ahead.
A little bit, okay.
They actually mention it. It's like 2018.
But it's like, you would expect it to almost be like a Mad Max type, where it's like a post-apocalyptic type of era, but it's not. They have technology available. Everybody does, and you can see that these people lived comfortably. They had money. They had a nice setup. They had the televisions, the PS4.
Yeah, they were criminals, but they had their weird warehouse lair, but it was still their home.
What I figured out is they weren't necessarily criminals. They were working for criminals. That was
they did
their
what they
job.
had to. Yeah,
and they tried to keep it honest. Like in the very beginning when they were talking to like the head crime boss or whoever the fuck that idiot was, they were just like, dude, something went wrong. It wasn't our fault. And the guy was just an idiot. And I actually liked that.
Oh, yeah. That guy.
It was funny because that character was obviously such a fucking moron and they knew it. And it was just like, God damn it, you're going to fucking get us into this shit again. And we don't want any violence. They didn't want violence. They just wanted to get their money and go. Like, just leave us alone. Let us go back to our family life and let us live in peace. And they got caught up in shit, unfortunately. But it's because of the separation of, the elite against the common people.
Yeah.
And that's what they were saying is like, you have to decide, Chappie, whether you're going to live or die. And you have
sometimes
to realize...
you have to fight. You have to
recognize what's
sometimes.
important.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for the people that you love?
And that
was his whole journey.
He learned that...
because it was very
but he learned that you take care of the ones you love above everything else.
And it was so black and white because you had the mommy and daddy. She was teaching him, the love and the cherishing. The daddy was trying to teach him the violence and the how to shoot a gun, all this. His maker, was saying, promise me you'll never ever do this. But then all three of them, without even knowing it, taught him that you have to recognize who you love and what are you willing to do for that. At that point, you have to decide, am I going to be willing to kill somebody because you're harming my family? And he realized it.
And this non-traditional family, like you immediately recognize that's what the dynamic is. Yeah. And the way I can't even remember at this point the exact moment, but they explain existential crisis so clearly, so well, that you're just like, this is ridiculous. Because Dion, who is the scientist guy, he's God. He is his maker.
Yeah.
They literally say, "I am your maker."
Yeah.
And he gives him these moral values or whatever. And Chappie's like,
and he's very set in that.
He's set, and he learns that there are these things
he feels the betrayal from his maker.
He feels because he's finite. He's got a finite lifespan, and so it's like, but then, why did you make me to die?
Yeah,
why?
And that's
he's like, no, I made you to live.
Yeah, and I love that scene where they actually, oh my god, because that's what proved that Chappie was like a very smart conscious, is because he was willing to talk to his maker. He was willing to discuss it. And he does say, why did you make me knowing I was going to die? Which is a question that everybody asks. God, like the Christian version of God, why would he create us just to die? And he explains it so perfectly in the sense that, you became something that I never...
Yeah.
You became so much more
surpassed
than everything that I could have ever expected. And you have to understand that. And then it goes into, I am going to learn. Him, I'm going to learn how to do the conscious. No, you can't do that. No, you told me.
You told me I can do anything.
Never to let anybody tell me.
Like, I can do anything. Yeah. Don't ever let anybody hold you back and tell you can't. And you know what? He freaking does. Yeah. And he's always pushing and pushing and pushing. He's like, you can do art, you can do poetry, you can do anything you want. You don't have to be set in ways.
Yeah, and he ends up surpassing his maker and including him in his entire life. And it's just, and I love the fact that you can talk about this stuff and you still don't know what the movie's about. You still have to see it.
And you see it, and you'll have so many more feels than we could ever convey.
Absolutely.
The funny thing, before this movie, like a week or two before this movie came out, Neill Blomkamp posted on his Instagram some concept art for, and he was like, I really want to work on the Alien franchise, right? And so I guess when Chappie was wrapping up its post-production, he was just working with his concept artist guy on his own time on an idea for Alien 5. Well, I didn't realize it until we saw the movie, really, that Sigourney Weaver's in that fucking movie, right?
Yeah.
Well, a week after he posted all that art, they said, they were like, hey, we're going to get Neill Blomkamp to make the next fucking Alien movie.
Fuck yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. And he's like, I love the franchise. And now, she said, I would love to take Ripley out of orbiting around space and give a proper finish to what was such an excellent story. Yeah. And, they now have a working relationship. It says, it was really organic. We were just chatting about the movie every day on the set, Weaver said, on a discussion with the director about Alien 5 while shooting Chappie. That's freaking crazy.
That
and
is
so
awesome. See,
she
look
takes
at this
the main
shit.
he takes the main star who she was down to be in another Alien movie. She wanted to do it.
See, don't down fucking Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
Who fucking cares?
She's the
that
nerd.
bitch is awesome.
She's there for the nerds.
And she is.
You've been open about not liking her as an actress, and I admit I don't like her acting skills either.
I don't think her acting skills, but
she
the
loves
fact that
the
she
fans.
does these things is awesome, and she has
she's
the money
always
to back
been there
it.
for Alien.
Yeah, and she got into it at an early stage. She was smart about it. She ended up being in a movie that was a huge hit.
Yep.
And she has utilized that in Avatar, in this movie, and so many other movies, scientific, sci-fi, fantasy movies. Good for her.
Yeah.
I like her. I think she's incredible.
She knows the fans.
I'll never fucking down her again, whether her acting is good or not.
She
doesn't matter.
She wasn't even she didn't have any problem. I didn't have any problems with her acting in this movie. She just her character, like it was there, and it wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot. Yeah,
it was very black and white who her character was.
It's very much reminiscent of the Jodie Foster character from Elysium, only not quite as openly evil. Yeah, I was actually surprised by.
That's another bad.
I didn't hate Sigourney Weaver in the movie. Like I was just like, okay, she's just doing whatever.
Right.
But yeah, so they're gonna make Alien 5 because Neill Blomkamp's like, I love the story. You know, I love the world or the universe. And while Ridley Scott, he's still supposedly making Prometheus 2. Which I don't even know how that fits into the whole franchise.
Was he the one that did Exodus? Ridley Scott, and we just tried to watch that.
Oh, that was terrible.
Hardly got into it.
All white people playing Egyptians.
It was
Sigourney
awful.
Weaver's in that one.
Oh, yes, she is. That's right.
Oh, she's terrible.
God, the whole cast is terrible.
It's like, who would have ever thought Sigourney Weaver? I guess Diana Ross, or no, not Diana Ross. Elizabeth Taylor played Cleopatra.
That
but in this day and age, you just can't make a movie like Exodus.
What were they even trying to do in that movie?
I don't know, because it's like okay, they saw Noah did well in the Christian, and I like that movie.
But
and so
Noah,
they were like, let's take another famous story, the story of Moses, and let's take the religion out and still
but the
see
great
if it works.
thing about Noah is that it did have religion in it, but it explained
the connection,
everything scientifically in a way. Like that one part where it explained the beginning to the end. The book of
Genesis.
Evolution.
And it linked it with the Big Bang, and it fit so perfectly.
And evolution and everything, how it just came together.
It blew my mind.
And then we grew, and those 7 days were not 7 days, you fucking morons. It was more like billions of years. And if you look at it logically like that, and that's what Noah did.
The story makes sense.
I was shocked that I loved Noah so much. I was surprised. I didn't want to see it, but then we watched it. It was beautiful.
It was
absolutely
fantastic.
beautiful.
Darren Aronofsky, you know what? I never ever I didn't really feel like seeing The Wrestler or Black Swan. They're not really my types of movies.
I love Black
Swan.
I
love Darren Aronofsky. I watched I watch all his movies, and every single one of them always fantastic.
Well,
no matter
what
what
I love about it is he completely portrays in a raw state people with problems.
Yeah.
They're people with problems that exist. And he expresses those problems in a way that these people live them.
Yeah.
In such a way that it makes sense.
You read the people who damn the movie Noah, they're like, oh, that didn't happen in the Bible. That didn't happen in the Bible. Well, like the Guardians, they embellished the Guardians as like the rock. The fallen angels, and they come back, or they like have these big rock bodies because the earth is attached to them.
Well, what I say is, who the fuck are you to judge how do you know?
You read the Bible, and those aren't people; those are caricatures to convey a morality, that they're trying to get across in scripture, like scripture that's written in a specific way. You don't see the details; you see the big picture. And I've read the Bible. I'm not religious. But if you're going to translate it to screen and make it into three-dimensional characters that you can relate to and grow to care about, you're not going to get that unless you give them souls.
Well, and I'm sorry, but the Bible is a very beautiful interpretation of a time in history. It's a lot of embellishment. and it's been picked through and pieced together over time and
edited
and all that stuff. But the thing is that, you know, when if you as a person, and whether if your following is Christianity, I'm sorry, but if you try to take the Bible literally, you will literally go insane. No, you will go insane trying to piece it all together because it's not going to make sense. But if you actually take it as just what it is, which is an interpretation of morality and what should be happening, then you'll be fine. Yeah. And if you take the parts that are bad, like the selling of the daughters and the torture that people go through, that shit's real. Mm-hmm.
That's part of life.
It's real, and that's why you shouldn't.
You can't take the Old Testament and slap down the New Testament and be like, "Oh, well, the bad stuff doesn't exist. We wrote that out."
Yeah, I grew up in the church, Southern Baptist environment, and literally, I was telling you that today. It literally drove me insane, and I remember the day I was 13 years old, and I was sitting on my porch, bawling because I was so fucking upset because I was so confused about so many things. And I just finally, and it was like God spoke to me, and I finally just said, fuck this. My God wouldn't let me be upset like this. He wouldn't let me feel like I do, and he wouldn't let me be so insecure as I am. And as soon as I let go of that, religion that had been a part of my life, my entire life up until that point, I was great. Yeah. And I lived through my parents calling me a heathen and telling me that I was going to go to hell and all that stuff. But, you know, you just got to live your own way. Yeah. You got to live your own way.
Well, so we got a little...
Sorry, I went a little...
Distance there. We got a little reach.
I wanted to say, speaking of... screenplays that are being written now that are going to be awesome by the writers who should be writing them. I am now reading Ready Player One.
Yes, you are, in just a second. But Exodus was just... Ridley Scott, like, say what you will about his recent movies... Exodus is just the absolute wrong way to make a biblical
about
story.
Him now is that he's probably had all these ideas of what he wants to do for so long, and now he has the money to do them that he's just kind of throwing shit out there. Or he's just doing whatever
they give to him. He's gotten to the point in his life where he doesn't have a particular, like Steven Spielberg. They don't have they're older, they don't have the passion that they had, and so it's kind of reflecting in their work.
Personally, if I was in that position, like if I was Steven Spielberg or Ridley Scott, I wouldn't be doing I would be doing movies anymore. I would take on young, aspiring filmmakers
Kevin Smith
and directors.
He got to the point where he made Jersey Girl, and he went, you know what? And he had just pumped Jersey Girl out like he just did it by the numbers. Jersey Girl, and then Zack and Miri actually was his last film when he said, you know what? I just don't have the things to say that I used to, and because of that, I don't feel like doing it anymore because I don't have any original. And I've said all the things I want to say. It's time to let someone else to do it. Yeah. And then a few years pass, and then he had something more to say. Right. Well, you know what? I think some of these bigger directors, they need to stop. And they need to wait a few years and then get the passion back. They need to have something that they're so passionate that they want to get it up to the screen.
Well, it's just like musicians, you know. Musicians who have been around forever. Musicians who have been around forever. The smart ones, actually, they start their own production companies. They bring in talent that they like, and they start, record labels like that. More simply, or more local, I was just thinking about Minecraft when you were talking about that. When I am working on a big project on Minecraft, I get tired of it after a while. Yeah, and then I I have to go do something completely different until I have an idea for the next thing that I want to do.
You have to come back with fresh ideas,
and it's just like Kevin Smith is doing. I mean, now look at what the guy is. No, I mean,
he's
look at what he's doing.
He's made some of his best films ever in the last 4 years.
He's making incredible B horror flicks that. Oh my God!
Speaking of religion, Red State. I'm not going to say much, but oh my God!
Yeah,
I saw that at his in Denver at his Q&A with his movie. I paid $50 to go see. The movie was incredible. It had such an impact on me.
Beautiful movie. More incredible, and even just like more simply, like the walrus
Tusk,
and then moose jaw or whatever. those are going to be great. But he took the time. Clerks 3 is going to be coming out, back, and he took the time to get his passion back, to explore different areas so that he could have, and all those different areas that he explored is now in his movies, I'm sure, and gave him ideas, just how you write things down, and it'll eventually become other ideas. But I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's just you know. Yeah, I love how art is going now. I love how the art is going these days. Yeah, because it's been such a lull. There's been such a lull in our.
Well, it's like the fresh people are coming out of the woodwork. They're like, you know what? I have a vision too.
Yeah.
And speaking of. Going back, I cut you short.
Well, that's okay, but Ready Player One.
Going back to Ernest Cline and his novel Ready Player One, which the last couple of podcasts ago, I was just glowing about it.
You listened to Will Wheaton.
I did listen to the audiobook version while I worked, and it was so good. I immediately wanted a movie. I wanted to go back to this place, and they've just announced. Like about a month ago, actually, they announced a sequel, to his novel is in the works. Ernest Cline is writing a second book.
Okay,
and he's also churned in the second draft of
the screenplay for the book. Him write the screenplay because that doesn't happen that often.
No, it doesn't. He gets to adapt his own material,
and that's
to
what's
the screen.
So fucking awesome about people from our generation who have money. They know where to invest it. They invest it into other people, whereas other generations from the past, they fucking keep the money and they don't put it anywhere. About the money. And
even with like companies, behemoths like Disney purchasing Marvel, and you would think that they would just be like, all right, we're just going to pump out moneymakers by the numbers. Well, they take risks, and they know what they're doing, and they let Marvel guide the movies.
Who's doing the Fantastic Four movies now?
A director named Josh Trank, who did he directed
what production company?
I want to say it's Fox. I think it's Fox. Yeah, it's Fox, because they own that, X-Men. And
because I'm interested to see where that series is going to go.
Not Spider-Man. They don't own Spider-Man, but they own that and X-Men.
Okay.
Because it's just Josh Trank, he did Chronicle, the found footage superhero movie. Like they kind of they get all superheroes.
I like it.
Yeah. Yep. It was set in Seattle. That movie, like.
The first that was actually the first found footage movie that I actually liked.
That was the first one that I watched and thought was incredible.
Yeah.
Totally turned my mind around on found footage movies. Like, I gave them a chance, and there's still bad ones, but there's so many more good ones.
Right. Yeah, they're just definitely getting better.
As Above, So Below was a fantastic one.
Oh, fuck. What a great movie.
But yeah, Josh Trank, and the thing, I actually wrote a whole blog about this on Tumblr, is that all right, so superhero movies are big now. Yeah. Everybody's making them. They're taking over the box office.
Right.
Well, in a world where superhero movies saturate everything, and everybody and people become kind of jaded towards that.
Yeah.
Well, how do you make it different? You approach it differently, and it seems like they're approaching the Fantastic Four not as a superhero film, but as a science adventure, like Interstellar, but. Accessing the human element.
Acknowledging the fact that, yes, superheroes do exist in this universe.
What is the impact of them actually being here?
And what are the lesser-known ones doing? They're off on different planets, fighting different aliens and shit like that.
Look at what happened at the end of Avengers. They call it the Battle of New York. And the fallout for that has lasted... all the way up until now. Avengers came out in, 2012? Something like that. Look it up. And then Iron Man 3, and then, they acknowledge it in everything else, and it's still acknowledged in S.H.I.E.L.D. As being this huge event. And then in DC, they're going to acknowledge the fact that at the end of Man of Steel...
2012.
It came out in 2012. So this is, 3 years later? And at the end of Man of Steel... Superman and Zod had decimated the whole of fucking Metropolis, like ridiculous, and that's where they're starting off.
And it's
not like they're just bringing superheroes in, letting them do this crazy battle, and then saying everything's okay.
Yeah,
because that's not life.
Doing it right, and we've talked about that before. How the franchise is just an incredibly smart move by so many people, and the
Which
people
franchise?
And the whole superhero movie franchise, just the whole genre. It's just, incredible.
They're taking it seriously.
You've got Joss Whedon, and that's the thing, is that they actually have smart fucking people working on these movies, and they know how to write them.
That's the first thing they did right, was in the beginning, they were just picking, like, names. They were picking big names. But now what they're doing is they're taking these properties and they're giving it to the people who love it and are passionate about it, not the Ridley Scotts, not
yes, exactly.
Yeah, they're giving it to the Joss Whedons.
Yes,
they're giving it to the Josh Tranks. They're giving it to the Max Landises who wrote Chronicle.
Talked about it before.
Yeah.
Like, these guys, they are our age. They're from our generation. They fucking grew up with the same shit we did. They loved the fucking Marios. They loved the fucking
studios. See that we're, they're listening to us now, which they would ignore us. Like, all these movies would be developed in a vacuum, basically. Up until the first X-Men movie, they were all done in a vacuum by the studios, by the bigwigs, and then Kevin Feige came in and was like this in-between Marvel and 20th Century Fox, who made X-Men. And then after that, that's when all that happened. And it's just incredible. Deadpool was in X-Men. The X-Men Origins Wolverine. Terrible title. Terrible movie.
Yeah.
But Ryan Reynolds, genius casting. He's just genius casting. Well, that was like 6 or 7 years ago that movie came out, and the Deadpool movie was just languishing in fucking development hell.
Why Deadpool?
People went insane for it.
He's a very controversial character. Character when it comes to the comic book world, but he's a fucking awesome character.
Yeah, and there is a market for R-rated,
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
and
just
so the way they're doing it now, though, is like, because everybody saw that test animation. The studio's less than a week and a half after that video blew up. The studio's like, you know what? We're pushing this in, and Ryan Reynolds like, I'm still here.
Yeah,
they got him.
The movie what movie was it where it was Jim Carrey was in one of them? It was about the
Batman.
It was about the young guy who wanted to be a superhero, and he was like going around badass or kick-ass.
Jim Carrey was in the sequel for that. Kick-Ass.
That movie came out, and that's, oh my god, what a gory fucking movie. And the one with Dwight Schrute from Office.
Super.
Yeah,
that was from actually James Gunn, who just recently. Guardians of the Galaxy, fucking
huge cult classics at this point in a very short amount of time. Why wouldn't they do Deadpool after that? I mean, Deadpool is even less offensive than those two.
It depends on what you read.
Well, no, I know, but I mean, they could make it less offensive. But the rated R, the R-rated like superhero genre, oh my god. I'm so super stoked for something like that to come out.
It's only going to get better, yeah.
Because I love the
list,
Avengers and everything like that, but man, if I could see something gory and with a really good fucking humor and cursing in it and sex even, I'm
a Deadpool all the way. I'm excited. It's going to be great.
Yeah, and it's funny because like my son Ian, one of his favorite characters is Deadpool, and it's like I could not let him watch those movies. No.
So I'm going to rein it in again because we seem to be going off. We're going back to Ready Player One.
Yes, we are.
Fantastic book about a kid who grows up in this not too distant future, but distant enough future where basically the energy crisis has come to a head and poverty is up. Everybody kind of sees this release in a virtual reality game called Oasis, and it's like a world. It's like Second Life by way of like World of Warcraft, and you put on a headset and all that, and you immerse yourself in this world. And
picture yourself maybe like 50 years into the future, where and if nothing gets better, that's how it's going to end up. Basically,
trailer parks are stacked on top of each other. You've got an energy
crisis. You have very limited resources that you're dealing with. People have to work together, live as basically communal living, forced communal living, where you're just trying to make it, period.
Yeah.
And it is a total separation of the classes. You have the rich and you have the poor. There is no in between. Period. You have a system that this guy, Halliday, has created where it is it is your escape. He saw the
it's
problems
where you buy
happening.
goods. It's where you go to school. It's where you commune with other people.
The currency is even worth more in a lot of cases,
yes.
than actual currency, and it is where like our children would grow, or their children would grow up in. Being,
if things continue the way it is,
if things continue to be the way they are, and it is their escape, it is their oasis.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. The author Ernest Cline does so much world building in those few chapters.
Yeah,
but at the same time, he's dumping all of this like old school 80s nerd trivia, not trivia, but information on you, and you're going, I know that.
What I really loved in the beginning of the book was truly how I have felt, growing up, being in a religious, family, is the guy basically was just like, when I was born, it was all about, God's going to take care of everything, and everything's going to be okay, and blah, blah, blah. And he was like, well, fuck that. He's like, why didn't they just tell me the truth? Why didn't they just say that things are shit, and life is shit, and everything is shit? You can get. And you have to be okay with what you have. Mm-hmm. He's like, nobody told me that. And if they would have just been honest, maybe things would have been different. But they aren't. Because I grew up in a thing, and I was a child in an era where I thought things were going to be okay, and they ended up not being okay.
Yeah,
and it's just so true. Like,
you got to deal with how, like for one, life is not sunshine and roses, and two, you have to deal with it with what it gives you, and you have to make good with it. What is Percival? Have you met? What's Percival's female friend?
Here, I'll find it. I have it.
Yeah, but
it's
the
so
characters
simple.
of Percival and H and the girl in the story are so.
And he hasn't met her yet. She's just the person, the one crush that he has.
She's like an online superstar, basically.
Right.
The evolution of what a big gamer in StarCraft or something, or Warcraft.
Artemis
would be in that future.
Right.
The characters are so well written, and they're just great. And
I love the book
I'm excited
so far, and I'm
it.
only like halfway through chapter 4.
I'm so glad you're reading it. I've been trying to get you to read it.
Well, I'm sorry, but thank you, Loot Crate, for sending it to me.
You got that as a free fucking book in Loot Crate.
Well, I pay $20 a month, but my God.
One day maybe Loot Crate will sponsor this podcast, but until then, thank you for Ready Player One, because I didn't have a copy of the book, and now we do. Which is great. We're going to pass this around to all sorts of people too.
Will, yeah.
We're planning Brian, who's been on the show before. We're planning on sending it to him.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've ranted enough. I just wanted to stop by telling you that I guess this morning people woke up and they found out that Archer Season 5 had been put on Netflix. Season 5, the ISIS is dismantled. We haven't seen it yet.
What?
Yeah, Season 5, not Season 6, which is out now, going.
Oh, wait, what?
But Season 5 of Archer was put on
Oh, good.
Netflix.
I can watch it now.
Absolutely. And so that's pretty exciting.
I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Also,
for those of us who don't have cable.
I was reading something. This is Colorado type news, because we are in Colorado. We are Colorado business. Legalizing medical marijuana may lead to fewer suicides. It says the researchers took a close look at state-level suicide data over a 17-year period from 1990 to 2007 from the National Vital Statistics System mortality detail files. They analyzed data from the 12 states that had legalized medical marijuana during that time and compared it with the states that continued to criminalize the drug.
Yeah.
In states that had legalized marijuana for medical use, there was a 10.8% reduction in the suicide rate of men in their 20s and 9.4% reduction in men in their 30s, the study found.
Well, we know that Alaska has the highest suicide rate per capita. Marijuana is now legal there.
Oh, man, really?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And so I am very interested in seeing how if that rate goes down, because it makes sense.
Yeah, it says the negative relationship between legalization and suicide among young men is consistent with the hypothesis that marijuana can be used to cope with a stressful life event. The authors wrote, however, this relationship may be explained by alcohol consumption. However, this relationship may be explained by alcohol consumption. The mechanism through which legalizing medical marijuana reduces suicide among young men remains a topic for future study. And so it just shows that, like, It's just a good thing. Decriminalizing marijuana use in Colorado frees up, not only frees up, government manpower, specifically the police departments and the not DEA because they're federal, but the state level authorities. It frees them up to not only do other things, but it also all the taxes that come from retail locations.
Yeah,
that's a huge boost to our state economy.
Huge.
And it also, because now they're releasing the people who have like the minor pot charges and such, they're releasing them out into the world, so that's less taxpayer money going to prisons.
Yeah.
And it's like all these people who are in jail because of marijuana are now like it's being written off, and it's
slowly,
just there's nothing but positives really.
Right.
We're fierce advocates for pot legalization,
and I stopped smoking
so
for a good decade.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started back up again when it did become legal.
Yeah.
And fucking A, I'm glad I did.
It's fantastic, and there are very little draws. It's just all around good thing.
Especially now that you get to choose what you want.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, yeah, I think we're good for this episode.
I do too.
Sorry about the wait. We'll try and make it a weekly thing. Until then, if you could, we have our Facebook page at Forbidden Planet Comics and More. Forbidden Planet Comics, one word, and MOAR. So that's all one word. That's our Facebook page, and we're on Tumblr, Forbidden Plan 8, and we're on Twitter, Forbidden Plan 8, the number 8 at the end there. We're thinking about not rebranding, but like because of the Forbidden Plan 8, it's just kind of catchy.
Yeah.
And it would separate us from the
movie.
Forbidden Planet comics in New York and across the pond there.
Yeah. It's a work in progress.
It is. It's all a work in progress, and soon big things are coming. So we might even be making the podcast after the next two. Maybe. In our office studio.
Maybe.
In
we'll
the
see
store.
How things,
Maybe.
We're taking it day at a time. We're not going crazy.
So, until then, thanks for listening to our rants, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.